Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. We've got a victory to talk about. We've got a quite fresh team to speak about. It's different stuff, especially as a writer. The amount of very similar things I've had to write about in recent weeks and months. Same players, same problems, same issues, and quite frankly, Wednesday night was a bit of a godsend. It was just different players to talk about. All three new signings for 11 glorious minutes in that second half. Spurs had three new signings, all their summer signings, apart from Jack Clark, out on that pitch and doing what they do. It was great, but let's come to them in a little bit. Let's talk about the match itself to begin with. Oh, I just want to say, apologise if anyone was waiting for a video after Everton. The reason I didn't do one was because I kind of feel I wasn't there. I was on a week off, and I want these to be as genuine as, maybe more behind the scenes stuff as well. I really kind of only want to do them when I'm at a match, so you guys can get a little bit more from them that maybe you wouldn't get just, if I was a guy talking about something on a telly, which I don't really want to be doing. I want to hopefully give you a little bit more. So that's why I didn't do it. So apologies if anyone was waiting for that and it didn't happen. But I'm back from Belgrade, which was a really lovely city, to be honest. Lovely people. Obviously, it's had its problems in the past, which they've kind of had to come back from. And actually, the Belgrade Red Star fans were really good. I thought there might be some problems afterwards, but to be honest, I think there was a real level of respect. They maybe if the match had been more controversial or they just lost, but there was quite a bit of respect. Son, when he got substituted, a fair few of the Red Star fans were standing up and applauding him. Certainly some Serbian journos, is what I'm trying to say, were standing up and applauding him as well. And I think that kind of went through the city. There was quite a bit of respect for Tottenham. The cab driver who took me to the press conference the day before, he was talking about Tottenham and he said, Harry Kane, he's just beautiful. I don't think he was talking about his appearance, although, he's a good-looking man. I think it was more about the fact that, he just is, for them, seeing a player like that is something special. Be able to see him in the flesh as well. But the game itself, it was just what Spurs needed. It was, we can't go enormously overboard. We can't say this is it. They've absolutely turned a corner, amazing stuff, because we know they did this at home against Red Star as well. And then went on to lose at Anfield, albeit maybe should have gone 2-0 up, and that still probably frustrates Son and Pochettino, that moment. But it was important in a way, in terms of, I think, the away record. Tottenham's away record has been absolute garbage. I can't remember the exact numbers. I think it was something like 153 days since Spurs had last won away. And in any competition that is as well, since the win at Ajax, and it was something to cling on to, maybe even more so than cling on to, because the Red Star are a team that at home are notoriously difficult to beat. Liverpool lost there last season. I'm trying to think of the record they had as well. It's a long, I think, apart from a defeat against PSG, they haven't lost there in a long time. And certainly haven't lost by more, or even I think it was a team haven't scored more than one goal apart from PSG within a couple of years at that stadium. It was kind of intimidating. I've got to say, I don't want to do the Red Star fans a disservice, but I was expecting this difficult, tense, intimidating, hostile atmosphere that everyone had spoken about. And do you know what? It was noisy, but I wouldn't actually say it was massively hostile or intimidating for the players. And I think a lot of that came from the fact that there's an enormous running track around it. It really is, the fans are very, very far away from the pitch. The media press box was so far away. We didn't have replay screens as well, so apologies if anything I wrote in the immediate aftermath or during the game wasn't quite right. It was just because we only literally had that one split second to see it and we didn't get any replays. But yeah, so the fans are so far back that you can't really, they're not in the players' faces. They're not really scaring them, if you know what I mean. I think I've seen other stadiums where maybe it was more intimidating. Maybe Nicosia a couple of years ago. I think that was really tough to play in. Trying to think, there's been some other. Obviously, Dortmund's a tough place to play, and I think it's to do with that atmosphere. As we know at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, how important it is to be so close to the pitch for the fans. Although Spurs obviously haven't quite figured out how to play there to their full effect yet, but they will, and I think the fans will then play that part when everyone kind of adapts to it. And I think that was something the Red Star Stadium was missing. I get it was noisy, it was incredibly noisy, but not to the point I think it terrified the players, if you know what I mean. But still, I'm actually now detracting from what Spurs did, which wasn't the intention. I think they played very well. I think they had to go there. They had a bit of luck. Paulo Gazzaniga as well put off a great save early on, which maybe helped shape where the contest was going. And obviously, Spurs had their scramble and scored from it. And there was a scramble in their box for Red Star, and Red Star didn't score from it. And I think you have those key moments. We spoke about them, at Everton as well and Liverpool. There's little kind of fine margins that sometimes decide where a game goes. But I think Spurs responded well. And as I said, the freshness of it, it was such a different side. It could be pointed out that when that game began, there were probably none of the players who have expressed or seemed to want to leave the team, leave the club, were in that starting lineup. You had no Aurier, no Eriksson, no Alderweireld, no Vertonghen. Obviously there's a debate to be had whether certain players among those actually do want to leave the club, Alderweireld and Vertonghen. I would say probably Vertonghen out of all of them is the one who maybe doesn't want to actually leave the club. And then you've got the one player who was in was Danny Rose. There's debate over whether he really wants to leave the club or whether the club were trying to push him out last summer. We'll probably not know until he and Pochettino release books at some point in the future. But it was just a fresher team. And, there's one man we have to absolutely start with when we talk about players. It's Giovani Lo Celso. We've been waiting. What was it, 3 months after he signed? Is it 3 months? Yes, 3 months after he signed, he finally started a match, which is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And it's incredibly frustrating. I mean, it must be frustrating for Pochettino as well. There's been an element of him obviously being very cautious with him, but also losing him to that injury on international duty with Argentina. You do wonder how good Lo Celso was on Wednesday night. What kind of impact he would have made earlier in the season. He'd started to play games, hadn't he, towards the end of August, early September. And you think where he'd be at now, those games through October that he would have been playing in could be a very, very different landscape, the Premier League table for Tottenham, had he been playing, because he was superb. As full debuts go, this was right up there. I think the great thing about him, which he showcased, was the fact that he's a playmaker. He puts in the energy, yards, covers the pitch, but also he's aggressive, he's physical, he's strong on the ball, he slides into tackles, he did a lot of defensive work, he wins headers. I mean, what is that witchcraft? Tottenham Hotspur, we are not used to seeing a playmaker who has all of that. I think probably Eric Lamella's the closest you're going to get if you consider him to be a full playmaker and maybe not more kind of attacking, almost forward type. But if you're comparing Eriksson and Lo Celso, it's chalk and cheese when it comes to the physical aspect of the game. Eriksson, we know we're really down on Eriksson at the moment because of what's his form in the last few months, and obviously wanting to leave the club. But in terms of raw talent and playmaking ability, he's up there. He always has been up there in the Premier League. But if you take his physical side of the game, it's pretty much non-existent. The amount of times he will run towards the ball and you think, he's actually going to go compete for a 50-50, and he pulls out or turns his back. It's just the way he is. It's just that kind of player. He's never going to go in fully committed into a challenge. And there's lots of other creative playmakers out there that are exactly the same. Lo Celso feels different. Very early days, so I don't want to go absolutely bananas about him. But he certainly looks to be, hopefully, the answer to that problem. The Eriksson problem. The how will Spurs cope without Christian Eriksen question. It was really entertaining to watch. It's lovely to see, when it's a match like that, he's going to give his absolute all. They always will. But there was an actual composure to it, which I think was the most impressive thing. His goal on the day, that was perfectly epitomised that. It was absolute chaos, wasn't it? Ball hitting the post. I think it was Kane hit the post, wasn't it? Ball came back out. Son hitting the crossbar. Ali getting knocked over in the box, came back. And eventually it bounced to Lo Celso. Everyone else had been just swinging a foot, trying to get the ball towards the goal in any way possible. He didn't. Chested it down, stroked it straight into the top right corner. Absolutely perfect. And that's exactly what I felt he brought on the day. He thought about everything. He went in hard into tackles, won the ball back. That actual goal was started because he'd won the ball back just inside his own half with a tackle on a Red Star player. and he combined so well with people. He struck up a good, obviously, fellow countryman, Juan Foyth. I thought he interacted with him really well on the pitch. Tanguy on Ndombele, I felt there's a little friendship going there. There's a couple of times during the game I looked down and I saw them kind of giving each other little pats on the backs, hugs and things like that. There's definitely a new signings bond there. And I felt they linked up really well. I thought he linked up well with Kane, played some really nice balls into Kane as well. And even Christian Eriksen, funnily enough, when he came on a bit later, Eriksen kept trying to give him the ball. I think that's a real key thing as well. Sometimes you get players that come in and the established players won't give them the ball. It's a bit like that new kid in the schoolyard kind of thing. You're not quite sure how good he's going to be and you don't want to waste a pass. And I felt that they quickly realised Lo Celso, he was bossing it, and they wanted to give him the ball as much as possible. It's a bit similar with Ndombele, but we'll come to him in a second because I've got a lot of praise coming for him. But excuse me, with Lo Celso, it was very much just give him the ball, let him do what he can do, and he moves the ball quickly. It's something that Lamela does that I quite like as well, which I don't think he gets credit for sometimes, and Ndombele does now as well. It's moving the ball quickly. It's not letting the defensive team, the opponent, set themselves. He actually gets in there straight away, gets a pass away. It's like a radar in his head. He knows exactly where he wants to put the ball, and he puts it there. There's no kind of messing around. But he's also quite willing to have a little bit of a run with it. But no, this was really, really promising. Really good pointers, good hopeful. But the thing is, there's always going to be a downside. It's Tottenham Hotspur do provide this. I'd be shocked, maybe I'll downgrade that to surprised, if he starts on Saturday, tomorrow. This is my one thing. I asked Pochettino after the game about him. I asked him about his performance. He said he was really happy with him and explained how difficult his summer had been. We know it, we obviously know what happened. Copa America, so he didn't come back till late. Real lack of pre-season, all a bit of a mess while the transfer was going through. So he came to Spurs without any real kind of physical training, pre-season type thing, especially when you're going slam bang into a Pochettino season. You need that. So I get that, and then the injury and all of that, and that's why we're here where we are now. And unfortunately, my backup question, because I knew he wasn't going to answer it in the first one, I said, is he fit enough to start on Saturday? Bearing in mind, obviously, this is his first start in 3 months. And he said, we'll have to assess him, we'll have to assess others, and, there's like little knocks and things like that. And it wasn't the answer that kind of screamed to me that he's going to start him again. And I think the fans will go absolutely berserk. I kind of get it, because I totally get it, actually, because Eriksen, even when he came on, and we'll come to him in a bit as well with his goal, but before that, he came on, he was wasting the ball again. Into a team that is absolutely flying and 3-0 up at that point, and he's giving the ball away. There was no confidence going in. So if you're thinking of Eriksen coming back in and replacing Lo Celso, who's probably been one of the star men on the day, and seems to be the answer to your problems, I get it. If you're going to take him out, it's going to make people very, very unhappy, especially as he's going to go away with Argentina. They've got 2 friendlies. He's going to go away and he's going to start at least one of them, if not both. It's incredibly frustrating. Pochettino didn't even want him to go on international duty. So I think it's one of those that if you get to tomorrow morning and that guy is ready to play again, he looks incredibly fit still. He had 85, 86 minutes on the pitch. Towards the end, he didn't look knackered to me. His body will ache, of course it will, after his first game. But I think a couple of days' time, Saturday morning, I think you go with it. I think you keep the momentum. This is what disturbs me sometimes about what Pochettino does. I know he's got this thing about, because of his tactics, the physical demands, he likes to keep freshening it up. And, we saw a stat that came out in the last couple of days, something like, is it 93 games? It's a lot of games since Spurs had 2 consecutive same starting lineups. Tinkerman. It is. We used to moan about Claudio Ranieri about it. Unfortunately, Pochettino is. He will always keep kind of fiddling, and he kind of feels that in his mind one player isn't better than another, so he can play around, he can use different fresh players in a similar system with the same philosophy. But we know it doesn't work like that, and you've got a winning team. Give it some momentum. But again, we'll come to that later. I'm sorry, I'll keep using that phrase. Really aware of that one. There are other really good performances. For me, Tanguy on Ndombele. Honestly, what a player Tottenham Hotspur have got. He is He's a snip at, what is it going to be, 63, 64 million in all when it's all done and dusted. 22 years old, honestly, he is Moussa Dembele, but with an end product. He is the player that Tottenham Hotspur have needed for so long. Yes, he gets absolutely shattered around the hour mark. He's got a long way to go with his fitness, but that guy on the ball is one of the greatest sights I've seen at Tottenham Hotspur in a while. And Tottenham Hotspur have had some absolutely amazing attacking players. This guy has got a bit of everything. You know, he's box to box. You cannot get the ball off him. You know, Spurs put out a highlight package of his season so far, but they actually missed out Wednesday night stuff. Wednesday night, you could have made a highlights package all of your own just from that game. Red Star players were just watching in awe. They were bouncing off him. He was spinning. He was taking the ball from his own half, turning around, facing his own goal, flipping around, getting the other way. They could not get near him. And his plays, like I said earlier, these fast, quick through balls, it's splitting the lines, risky balls, that's what Spurs have needed. That guy should not be on a bench. He should not be out of the squad. He should be in Spurs starting 11 every time. You build that team around him and go from there. Honestly, give him a couple of years. Bearing in mind, he's going to only get even better than he is now as he adapts to Tottenham and the Premier League. That guy, a couple of years, I think he's going to be one of the world's best. And Tottenham Hotspur have got to make sure that he drags them along with him because, honestly, he's got everything. You've just got to make sure you play him in a way that gets the best out of him because, honestly, phenomenal player. Everything I think the Spurs have wanted from him, I think he's delivering already, but there's more to come. The defensive side of his game needs a little bit of work, and that fitness, as we say, but what a player, honestly. Absolute bargain buy, club record bargain buy. Who'd have thought we'd say that? And even late on, Ryan Sessegnon, as I said, we got those lovely 11 minutes with all three players on the pitch at the same time. It's ridiculous. Only Tottenham Hotspur can have a painful rebuild that's painful before they can even do the rebuild. Because there are two players out injured. Sessegnon, that was, only, second appearance. He's been out injured for almost 4 months. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. It's almost 5 months, actually. Well, no, he came back. He's been in training, hasn't he, for 3 or 4 weeks or so. He came on, massive confidence boost, Champions League debut, and he only went and set up a goal. Showed that turn of pace, showed that he could pick out a player, and that player was Eriksen. After all the kind of nightmare he's had in recent weeks, some of it his own making, I do feel as well, but he came on and he got a goal as well. So confidence-wise, you saw him. That didn't mean something to him. He properly had a fist pump kind of thing when he scored it. It wasn't just one of those, I've scored, I'm leaving the club type things. He was actually pretty happy. Let's put it that way. So, I do wonder whether he can be a bit of an impact sub going forward, Eriksen. Although, as I said, I still get a feeling he's going to start tomorrow. But maybe the confidence of that might help him out. But yeah, Sessegnon, I think he's got a massive part to play as well going forward. We don't know yet whether that's at left back or as a left winger. Came on as a left winger in Belgrade on Wednesday night, and he did well. He did well in a little, I can't go overboard because it wasn't that long. But what he did some nice little things, nice touches, and it'd be interesting to see where Pochettino uses him going forward. He has listed him among his defenders when he was talking about defenders before. I still think that's where he'll end up. I think we'll see a reverse Bale with him going backwards rather than forwards. But it's just so heartening to see 3 fresh faces in a team. It changes things so much. Little shout out to other players that I felt did really well. I thought Juan Foyth came in, did well. I think I've interviewed Juan Foyth before, and I remember him telling me about how he's an attacking midfielder at Estudiantes until he was 16 years old, he told me, in the academy. So when he goes forward, he does have that attacking ability. There was one little moment he nutmegged someone in the box, tried to get a cross in. He's not, we saw the Davinson Sanchez at right back experiment. Foyth isn't like that. Foyth will look to get forward. He will look to cross balls into the box. And like I said, I think he linked up really well with Lo Celso. I'm quite intrigued to see how Lo Celso and Lamela link up. I know Lamela has a few haters, but I've got a feeling that could be a really good little partnership. The two Argentines, probably know each other very well. And I'd be interested to see how they link up. But that's one for the future because we still have those injuries, which we'll come to in a bit as well. Gazaniga, as I said earlier, brilliant save early on. Absolutely top-notch. He looks to have really grown in confidence. He's settled down now. He knows he's first choice until early next year. Hugo Lloris, he's now had surgery on his elbow because it wasn't quite healing the way they wanted. Unstable is the word they used on it. Eric Dyer, I thought he came in and did really well. We've got to remember, he's, that was only his third start of the season. He was playing in central defence. I thought he had a nice little partnership going with Davinson Sanchez. I've seen it before. They played together at Selhurst Park, maybe either last season or a couple of seasons ago, and they got a clean sheet that day. Dyer can play on the left, which massively helps Sanchez, so he can actually play in his more natural right role. And I thought Dyer played well. I think he was solid. He mopped up a lot of stuff. He gets a bit of flack when he plays in central defence, but I actually thought he did pretty well. Who else? We've got Danny Rose. Danny Rose is a bit mixed for me. I still felt he was incredibly sloppy in possession. However, his assist for Son's second goal was superb. Lovely link up with Kane. Kane playing an absolute inch-perfect ball into Rose's run. So that was a lovely assist, and that's something I've been banging on about Rose. Getting assists, I don't feel he creates enough chances for other players. So credit to him where it's due. He set up that was a really lovely low ball to Son. So fair play to that. Talking of Son, difficult few days, really difficult few days, but I thought he came back and I think a lot of it helped. Teammates helped in this weird way. I wonder whether the Gomez incident, as awful it was for Andre Gomez and Son in the moment as well, less so obviously, we can't go overboard. It was very much an awful day for Andre Gomez. But I do wonder whether the Tottenham team coming around, gathering around Son, really, players like Kane and all that, hugging him and training on the Monday to kind of try and get him out of the funk that he was in. I do wonder whether that's galvanised Tottenham slightly. It's brought the group closer together again, around Son, who is... He's such a lovely guy. He is one of the, probably if not the most popular player at Tottenham among the players. Every time you look at him each day, he's laughing and joking with a different player. Everyone loves him there. And I think it really brought the squad together. And then when he got his red card overturned, which was a ridiculous decision in the first place, I think maybe that also helped convince him it wasn't your fault. It was just an accident and these things happen. It could have been anyone going in for a tackle, and just the way he fell, studs into the ground, and then colliding with Serge Aurier, it was just a bad accident. We see it hundreds of times not go that way during a football match. So he went in and he looked bright. He looked comfortable. He obviously scored 2 really nice clinical finishes. The celebration was a nice touch of class as well. Doing the no celebration at all really, just going straight, finding a camera, doing the kind of praying, there's like a bit of that praying, apologising thing, that please forgive me type thing. And then the second one was just a heart. He made a heart shape with his hands to the fans to thank them for their support. So that's great to see that he's kind of moved on now and he can kind of keep in this vein. Even Dele Alli, just on Son, I want to say, with his goals, he became the top South Korean goal scorer in history in Europe. He surpassed another guy whose name's completely gone out of my head who played in the Bundesliga. Son now has 123 goals, which is a great feat. And he's obviously made a little bit of history back home in South Korea now. Dele Alli came in. That's another assist for him. He might not be up to full kind of top gear right now, but that's a goal and assist in his last 2 games. You can't really ask for much more than that. That's terrific. Like I say, Ericsson, confidence booster for him. Even Oliver Skipp came on for his Champions League debut. Tiny little thing that probably would have gone completely unnoticed, but just to get a couple of minutes for the young teenager. Champions League debut, big night, big stadium, albeit not as hostile as I thought it was going to be, but still really great for him. And that can only benefit him because he's kind of been in that weird limbo recently, hasn't he? Where Troy Parrott's found himself in Japhet Tanganga of not playing for the under-23s or the under-19s and not playing for the first team. And I hate that little grey area, that limbo land where they don't play for either. I feel it stunts their development. I remember Carl Walker-Peters getting stuck in exactly that same area before, and we see where he is now. He's not playing at all. So yeah, I thought it was a game for them to really build on. I think they're starting to slowly find their way back to kind of where they want to be. I wasn't at his press conference today. I had a day off after coming back from Belgrade. My colleague Rob Warlow's there, so check him out on Twitter, Rob Warlow, and Football.London, the Spurs account. Will have got all the stuff from the press conference. I don't want to go too much into it because obviously have a little look at that and see what was on there, but kind of just in very small summary, it was some similar stuff from the other day in terms of a couple of players with injuries that he's got to look at, assess before he can decide whether they're going to play. And that concerns me because I feel he's going to change it up again. And Spurs need momentum. They're not winning matches. And when they do win matches, they're not taking that same team in. For me, we did an article on the website yesterday. I was asked to kind of pick the team I would. I'd go for pretty much the same team and maybe just bring Davies in for Rose. And that's it. Maybe harsh on Danny Rose after his assist, but I just think Davies has earned a little run of games. And I think for the rest of the team, I think they all did well enough to just keep going. Why when the team's got momentum? And of course, Pochettino would no doubt say, Alistair, you absolute mug. I've just said some of the players have got small injuries and that's why we can't play them. That may well be the case, and if that is what it is, but then they need to have that on the injury list. They need to show that they've got injuries. If we see those same players on the bench, then it becomes more frustrating. Stick with it. Don't go back to stale old habits. Tottenham have been stale as anything. If they were a cake, they'd be absolutely rock hard this season. They're just so stale. And Wednesday night, we saw a different Tottenham Hotspur. We just got a glimpse, especially in those 11 minutes, of the Tottenham Hotspur to come. The Tottenham Hotspur of what could have been this season had there not been those injuries. And you know what? It was pretty cool. It was pretty exciting. Ndombele breaking through the lines, dragging bodies around him as he went forward. Like a horde of walking dead zombies behind him as he just flew right through. Sessegnon, pace, drive, excitement, youth, innocence, and the way he plays that kind of brilliant youthful naivety of just going for it, that direct running, no fear, no worries about the bad form of others or the team. And Lo Celso bossing it, absolutely the dynamic player that Tottenham have needed in those attacking positions, just to light up others' play. Son was feeding off him, Kane was feeding off him, Ali was. They all trust him already. Get him in there, play with them, use that momentum to slingshot the team forward. 3 new signings. Yes, Pochettino says they're young. They've got to have time. We've got to be patient with them. They've shown in enough glimpses now that they're ready. Use them. They were bought for a reason, and that was to rebuild Tottenham Hotspur and make them a better version of what they were before. To upgrade, refresh, rebuild, whatever you want to call it, the team. That's what they're there for. Let them do it. Don't stick them back on the bench, because I think if he does, Pochettino's, is then becoming his own worst enemy. Sheffield United are going to be an incredibly tough test. It's probably the one you really don't want. People are going to analyse that. I've just said that, and they're going to say, but they could be playing all these top teams, Liverpool, City. But what I mean is, after a game like that in midweek in Europe, coming back, and you are facing a team that absolutely work their backsides off. They give everything. Chris Wilder, some really great quotes when it's like when the interviewers have said, but they've put in so much effort. He's like, that's the bare minimum. They should be putting that else. And then we're looking at everything else. And they will absolutely run their socks off. And Tottenham need to battle. They need to keep up with them. It's going to be an incredibly tough game. And if they can come through that with a win, I think you can honestly then say the corner is starting to be turned. If they can do that, come through this week unbeaten, point at Everton, which they could have got more, win away in Europe, pretty much they're getting towards those knockout stage qualification now. They're taking a big leap there. And if they could beat Sheffield United, I think you can say they're starting to turn things around. But he has to play new faces. He has to bring them in. He can't now just bring back in all the old underperforming faces back into the team. I know he has loyalty. I know he feels he owes certain players something perhaps. Don't do it. Don't do it, Mauricio. Stick with what you've got. You've seen a team that can win. Please let Tottenham Hotspur keep winning. Otherwise, there's only one direction they're going to go. And nobody wants that. We want success. I want to be writing about positive stuff. It was a joy on Wednesday night and yesterday to be able to write positive stuff after all the rather depressing things we've had to write about, and also no racism. That was glorious as well. I thought we were going to have some problems and that, but everyone was incredibly well behaved. And hopefully Pochettino is as well, and he picks a team that can do the job at the weekend rather than going back to stale old habits. I'm Alistair Gold, and that was our little chat about Tottenham Hotspur. I shall talk to you again soon.